There we go. Paula, you are live on the show now. Can you hear me? It looks like you've got trouble connecting. Trying again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you, Paula.
Hi there. Well, it's rough. I am in ICU. My son suffered a traumatic brain injury after a bike accident, and he did have a helmet on. He is 32, and so we've been in ICU for 45 days. And he's right now, his vitals are stable. His eyes are still dilated. He's only had trace movement in his eyes, but that's it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
45 days. So what was the initial diagnosis? A traumatic brain injury?
Yes. Yes, anoxic traumatic brain injury.
What else?
And
anything else?
Well, he did have some internal injuries and a broken arm.
Right. But basically he's not coming out of the brain injury at the moment.
He's not coming out of the coma, but what they've relieved the intracranial pressure. That was a battle for about 2.5 weeks. Yep. And now they did a craniectomy, but he is what's called a midline shift, paradoxal shift. And so they're going to go ahead and put the skull back in and put a shunt. They put one shunt in and it is not working. So they're going to have to test that shunt and possibly put another one on the other side. And it's a rough road. I've gotten a lot of conversations about, well, we don't know his quality of life. And, and I just thought, well, nobody knows that right now. It's unknown.
There's plenty of time, Paula, to talk about end of life in case things don't improve. I mean, at the moment, all efforts should be made to improve your son's situation.
Yeah.
And
that's how I feel.
Right. And is he still in an induced coma or is it a natural coma now?
Well, it's a natural coma. So he was induced for the first 3 weeks. Yep. And then they took him off of the paralytics, the phenobarbital, and all of that. All of that got taken off, and his drug score went from a 35 finally down to a 10. And I'm assuming by now it's all out of his system.
Yeah. And he's got a trach by now?
Yes. So he was vented, but he is breathing on his own. And okay. Our first MRI, the doctor said, well, it's not as bad as I thought. His spinal cord is intact. There is a lot of damage. However, I can see a lot of contrast.
What do you mean with contrast? They've done a contrast.
I don't know. In other words, he could see the contrast of the injury versus the good parts of the brain.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So yeah. He had a CT or an MRI with contrast.
Yeah, he did have he had an MRI and lots of CTs. He's had lots of CTs because he developed a hydrocephalitis where he's just throwing off all kinds of fluid. And that's why they're going to go ahead and they've drained him. They've drained his skull, and now they're going to put a shunt in one. Hopefully that works, and then put his skull back in.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's something called a paradoxal midline shift.
Yeah. And are they still measuring his ICP, his brain pressures, or have they stopped measuring that?
No, they're continuing to do that. It's been between 2 and 5.
Okay. So, okay, that's interesting. So they're still doing that, but it hasn't been high.
No, Only the first 2.5 weeks it was high, and it was a battle to keep it down. But now our battle is the fluid and overproducing fluid and ventricles that are dilated and throwing off more fluid and more fluid. So he's been draining now. Unfortunately, the interior shunt never worked, so they had to do an exterior drain.
Exterior drain. That's in his brain right now.
Yeah, draining.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously his antidiuretic hormone is not working if he's producing too much urine. Is that what you're saying?
Wow, I don't know about that. Fluid. I'm sorry, brain fluids, CSF.
Oh, brain fluids. Okay, I see. Yeah, okay. You're not talking about the antidiuretic hormone. You're talking about CSF. Okay. Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. So where's the CSF coming out? From the drain?
From the EV, the external drain.
From the EV drain.
Yes. The shunt that they installed never worked.
Right.
And so as soon as he's fit for surgery, they're going to take him in for surgery. They're going to replace the skull and put in another drain.
Wow.
A shunt.
Which, you know, given that he's got an EVD now basically for 45 days, that's also a big infection risk.
Yes. Yeah.
But he hasn't thank God he hasn't had an infection.
Well, he has elevated his white count is up to 22.
Right.
And so they've got him on 3 different antibiotics. And the doctor will do the surgery as soon as his white blood cell count comes down. Then we can get the surgery taken care of and get his skull back on and get a shunt put in.
Right. And does he have any seizures?
No, not that I know of. They EEG came back good.
And he's not on any anti-seizure medications?
I believe they have him on Keppra.
Okay, probably it would be on something. Most likely it would be on something.
Keppra, propranolol. There's quite a propranolol, Keppra. Yeah.
Okay. And once surgery is done with a VSD with the VSD shunt, what's next?
Well, he needs, if he wakes up, we can get into a really good rehab. If he wakes up, if he shows that a little bit of command, then we can get him right into rehab, physical therapy, and where they'll keep him stimulated and keep him awake, and yeah.
Okay.
So I know we have a rough road ahead, but we're willing to climb it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And he's completely off sedation now.
He is off sedation, yes.
Yeah, no, that's good. And no other, like you mentioned, no spinal injury, no other major injuries. It's really just a neurological issue now.
So he did have a C2 fracture. He has a Miami J collar on. So he's had that on since 45 days.
Day one. And he's nowhere near ready to have any rehabilitation stimulation. He's not getting any physical therapy yet.
No, we're just putting him in a seated position. This is our 3rd time where we're putting him in a seated position.
Right. Because one of the things that that is one of the risks here, if he's, and I understand with head and brain injuries, you can't start physical therapy and mobilization as quickly as with other patients, right?
Yeah.
One of the challenges that I can see is, if they're not starting to mobilize him, he might get contracted. His joints might get contracted.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not sure whether, they are taking any measures there to even do light physiotherapy or physical therapy, because if he's waking up and then
Yeah, I'm doing it. Yeah, I move his legs about 3 times a day. And I try to move his arms and shoulder, and I rub him down. I rub his muscles down and give him a massage. They do have leg cuffs on him to keep the calf muscles moving.
Yeah, good, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Because if he improves, hopefully, and you don't want him to not being able to rehabilitate because he's got contractions everywhere.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Yeah. Well, I'll just from you saying that, I'm gonna up my schedule to 5 times a day, maybe more.
all the joints, knees, heels, elbows, arms, hands, all of it, really.
Yeah. I'll do it. I'll keep in there.
Yeah.
I'll
Yes.
up my schedule.
Right. They should be doing it too. They should
Yeah.
be doing
So far, no. No,
Right.
because we're just in the ICU and keeping him stable. But I'm the only one that does the physical therapy part of it.
Right.
So.
Okay. Look, it sounds to me like you are in good spirits, which is half of the battle.
Yes, it is. I cry a lot, though. I do definitely have my moments.
Yeah, I can imagine. But
yeah,
you shouldn't, don't give up. And if they're still going on after 45 days, I mean, they must see some hope as well, I would think.
well, they do, but they're starting to give me that timeline and quality of life speech, and I'm just not wanting to hear that. I'm wanting to keep in the fight.
Yeah. And like I said, God forbid, if things don't turn out, there's plenty of time to talk about end of life. But as long as he's making progress, even the smallest progress might get him to the goal eventually.
Yeah. And that's what we're working toward. We've got a little infection to conquer, and then try to keep pushing him forward the best we can. So I know they're doing, they've got him on like a ketogenic diet. They've got him on 2 or 3 different antibiotics right now, and then the anti-seizure Keppra medicine, and mantidine and propranolol.
Right.
For neurostorming.
Right. And is he having a PEG tube already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He's got a feeding tube. Yep.
Got a feeding tube in the stomach, not in the nose.
Correct.
Yeah.
In the stomach.
Yeah. Okay. Just be mindful that, if he does wake up, they might want to send him to an LTAC sooner than later.
That has been the discussion. They've discussed doing an LTAC, and I thought we're trying to fight to stay here at the hospital.
Yeah.
Unless, do you recommend LTAC or stay at the hospital?
Stay at the hospital.
Okay.
Stay at the hospital.
I think so.
Or the only thing that I would recommend once he's more awake, to target neurology rehabilitation.
I've reached out to a neuro rehab. Yeah. A Craig rehab in Denver. Yeah.
That's what I would be focusing on, Paula. Definitely not LTAC. It needs to be very specific to what your son needs,
Okay. Well, thank you. That's exactly, we want to get out of here, get medically sound and stable, and then they'll downgrade us here, and then we want to go straight to the neuro rehab. No other rehab, but neuro rehab. Yeah. So,
okay.
but first surgery. But thank you so much for taking my questions and concern. Your site has really helped me in this this battle that I'm in currently.
Yeah, no, that's really good to know. That's wonderful to know.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. All the best, Paula, to you, your son, and your family.
Thank you so much. Take care.
And you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.